Hey, Mark Carney, you creepy little worm. You work for us. Your job as the Prime Minister of Canada is to give us more rights, not to take them away. Bill C-9, the so-called Combating Hate Act, is the most extreme attack on Canadians' free speech we have ever seen in this country. It is more extreme than the Online Safety Act that was passed in the UK that's seen 12,000 Brits jailed a year, 30 Brits jailed a day for opinions that they're sharing. Bill C-9 is much more extreme than that. It removes the AG, removes the Attorney General, who is supposed to be a guardrail on so-called hate speech laws to ensure that it actually was hate, whatever that means, that was coming out of your mouth. It removes the Attorney General completely from the process and expands the definition of hate to so-called fomentation of detestation and vilification, which is more extreme than disdain. So we're going off emotions. We are literally basing our political system on someone's emotions to determine what is hateful and what is not hateful. If Bill C-9 is allowed to pass, we are telling the Canadian government that we are going to allow them to quiet us because of our beliefs. This is Orwell on steroids. Orwell could not have dreamed this up. The danger that this brings to the Canadian people, a so-called free country, is literally unprecedented. I've never seen something as extreme as Bill C-9 for our fundamental right as Canadians to express ourselves. If you can cut a man's tongue out, you turn him into less than a man. It's our fundamental right as Canadians, as human beings, to express our opinions. And the reason that free speech exists is for speech that you do not like. We're not all going to agree on the vast majority of the issues. You may think that me saying that a man cannot become a woman and a woman cannot become a man is hate speech. You may think that me saying that 500,000 people coming from the Middle East in the past 3 years is not good for the country of Canada. That does not give you the right to throw me in jail. Unless we're living in a communist country. If we're living in a communist country, this is a textbook communist law where if you say something that doesn't line up with the ideology of the ruling party, you are thrown in prison. I personally found it incredibly hateful when during COVID, Justin Trudeau came out and said that if you didn't want to take the vaccine, you were likely a racist or a misogynist. I found that to be incredibly hateful. Do I think the man should be in jail for it? I think he should be in jail for other things, but certainly not that. The man can express himself as he sees fit. Under this new Bill C-9, it's not about hate speech. It's about speech that the Liberal Party of Canada hates. You can already see with the angle that they've taken in writing the speech and specifically pointing out swastikas. Now, I'm no friend of the Nazis, but they don't mention the hammer and sickle, which killed tens of millions of people during World War II. You can tell that this speech is aimed at silencing dissent, silencing people who want to criticize issues like immigration. You bet your ass that if you say that bringing 8 million people into this country in the past decade, many of whom are from civilizations wildly different than our own, that's going to be classified as hate speech, and they're going to start jailing people. This is communism 101. This is straight out of Mao, Pol Pot, Lenin's playbook. Canadians, open your eyes to what is going on. The freedom of speech and sovereignty are the two pillars of Western civilization. And if we allow our government to tell us what we are and aren't allowed to think, we're no longer human. You're not a human being if you're not allowed to freely express your thoughts on any issue. And also the fact that they are attempting to implement this law directly after the assassination of Charlie Kirk is so disgusting to me. to time it immediately after the assassination of a man who, first and foremost, was an absolute champion for free speech. His whole modus operandi was going onto college campuses and speaking to students that he disagreed with, because he knew that if you can't speak with people who you don't agree with, the next step is violence, and violence leads to civil war. So that's why a guy like Kirk went out there and said, you may disagree with me, you may not like a word that comes out of my mouth, but we need to be able to sit across from one another and have a discussion. That's the only way that the differences in this country are going to be ironed out. To see the Canadian government, a couple of days after his assassination, introduce Bill C-9, trying to take advantage of the politically tumultuous situation, is disgusting. And it's what these commies always do. They try to take advantage of a disaster to give themselves more and more power. We saw the exact same thing during COVID. It's the same thing out of a communist playbook. You see any tumult and you take advantage to strip away people's rights and freedoms, which is exactly what we're seeing in Canada. You don't think that the Liberal Party knows that their policies over the past decade have caused skyrocketing crime rates in this country, have caused in excess of 70,000 people in Canada to die a year because of a broken healthcare system, has caused a housing crisis unlike anywhere we've seen in the G7, where people can't afford the basic necessities of life. No, they are intentionally ushering in worse and worse times in Canada because they know that will allow them to continue to strip away their rights and freedom. Bill C-9 is just the first step in their authoritarian playbook to eventually introduce digital IDs. They're also already introducing a bill that would say that you cannot spend more than $10,000 cash at a time, getting rid of cash so that they can freeze all of your money. But these digital IDs, central digital banking currencies, these are all part of their ultimate plot to strip away your autonomy as a human being, have more and more government control. And we need a reminder in Canada to these goddamn politicians that they work for us. It's not the other way around. They're not put into office to strip our rights and freedoms away. They're there to give us more rights and freedoms. Bill C-9 is the exact opposite of that. They want you scared to open your mouth. If you have an opinion that's outside of the mainstream, that's critical of these far-left politicians, they want you to be scared to open your mouth. But it's just going to embolden us. It's going to do the exact opposite of that. I am setting up a petition because, in my estimation, this is the most extreme, dangerous bill we've seen among many horrific bills that Carney has introduced. I'm going to be setting up a petition to sign to make it known how displeased the Canadians are with this bill, how we refuse to accept to be silenced and have our tongues cut out. Stay tuned. I'll be putting a link where you can sign and voice your displeasure and let the government know that Bill C-9 will not ever be acceptable in a free and open Canada. Stay tuned for that information. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member. If you're interested in supporting my work, I really appreciate it. It takes a lot of work to get these videos out. If you're following on TikTok, make sure you're following YouTube, youtube.com/AppFightForCanada 2025. Canadians must say no to Bill C-9. It is an extremist communist attack on our fundamental right to free speech.